Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we want to talk about electric motorcycles. Now, electric anything, any vehicle, they've got a kind of stereotype, a perception. They're sort of slow, quiet.
Don't go very far.
Don't go very far, they're sort of quiet.
They're just
kind
not
of
well liked.
Yeah, it's the sort of, I mentioned to somebody that we had an electric motorcycle and they sort of said, what, you put tussles on it to make sure it's moving. So yeah, the perception is not great. Generally, people sort of think that they're motorcycles or vehicles designed for bunny huggers to make themselves feel better. However, today, we think we have something that might change your mind. What we have here is the Ego Superbike and the Eva Street Fighter. Two motorcycles built in Modena, the same town as Ferrari. They are from a company called Energica, a name that might be familiar to you because they build the machines racing in the new MotoE championship. They are also the first electric sport bikes to make it to South African shores, and they display some of the beauty expected from the Italians, but their specs say that they could certainly do away with some of our electric misconceptions. They both have a maximum power output of 145 horses, but the real trick with electricity is torque. 200 Newton meters for the Eva and 215 for the Ego. That's an earth-stopping amount, and the best way to put it to the test is to kit up and try it out.
I've just climbed on the Ego for the very first time. Being the sport bike nut I am, I want to figure out how to take all the nanny modes off. High, we want that. And I want it in sport mode, ABS on, just to be a little bit safety cautious. And here we go, let's experience the Energica.
Here we go, turn on the ignition. Ooh, that looks good. Eva, you know what you're writing, Eva. Okay, settings. Chassis control settings. Okay, level 6 is the most intrusive. I think I'm going to head down to level 1. I'm not going to quite turn it off because I'm not quite that brave. I'll leave it on level 1. Okay, you then pull the brake. You hold down the start button. The little words go comes up. And I believe it's ready to go.
Start button. I pull the front brake in to activate. There we go. And now it says go. See how that feels. Well, that's not bad. That's 215 Newton meters of torque straight off the bat. Nice big Brembo brakes, getting me stopped, and a nice Öland suspension. There we go.
Let's see. You geez, like that pulls so quick. Oh. That's a lot of forwardness. That's a lot of forwardness. A lot of forwardness happened there. So, obviously we are impressed. But is it better than a superbike of the liquid fuel kind? Here we have the mighty 2020 BMW S1000RR, a superbike that has impressed to no end. We also have Rob and Don. Rob occasionally goes to the gym, and his wife throws things like vegetables on his plate. Don thinks that cake is one of his 5 a day. You'd think we give the Ego the advantage by putting Rob on it for a drag race, but no. The BMW at 207 horsepower makes more power than the Ego, but it has far less torque. Also, the Ego has no clutch, so while Rob has to play a balancing act to pull off, Don just opens the throttle. And they're off. The Ego yanks out in front, but will the BMW be able to pull it back? And no! The Ego takes it. So, how does Energica create all this oomph? Well, part of it is to shove lots of electrical fuel into the permanent magnet 3-phase oil-cooled motor. But to do that, you need to fill the electrical fuel tank, and then get that electrical fuel into the motor.
So one of the main concerns with any electric bike is charging it. They've made it really simple, actually. You lift the seat up, clicks, holds itself up, which is a nice feature. And then here's the plug point. Under the seat, unplug that, plug it in there, direct into your wall socket at home, a 2-pin plug. And that'll take up to about, 2.5 hours to charge. Otherwise, if you get to some kind of places that have these now new charging stations, you can literally plug it in and it's 20 minutes to a full charge. So that's something that is still coming. Obviously, the world's going to get more and more of those charging systems. But for now, plug it in at home, 2.5 hours, you've got a full battery.
It is getting better though. More so, if you look under the seat here, you'll notice that there's a cooling fan over here. That is for the ECU system, or as they call it, the VCU, Vehicle Control Unit. Now, they talk about DNA, like human beings and all living organisms, we have DNA. In software, you've got lines of coding. And there's more to this motorcycle than just a whole lot of electricity over here going into the motor. There's a lot that goes in it. Now, on this motorcycle, in the VCU, they've got 600,000 lines of code. In fact, in the entire motorcycle, there are 1.1 million lines of code. If you want to put that into context, the space shuttle only had 400,000. And that used to take people into space and bring them back, mostly. While it is great that there's tons of oomph and a clever way of making it, that's all useless unless it can be laid down on the road. Luckily, Energica were good enough to include a chassis with each motorbike, and a good one by the look of it. The frame is steel trellis, offering a balance between agility and stability. The standard bikes use Mazzocchi suspension, but these two are fitted with the €2,100 Öhlins options. The brakes are Brembo, the wheels are lightweight alloy, and the swing arm is aluminium.
So spending a whole day riding the new Ego machine, I spent a lot of time on this machine, and it's just crazy to think how direct the power is. There's no fuel tank with rubbish South African fuel getting in the way, going through all kinds of pipes. It's just this direct from the battery to the throttle. I can't explain to you how direct and responsive the throttle is. It's a very heavy bike, so getting it off the stand takes quite a bit of work, but once you're on the long, fast, swooping roads, that weight really does come into play. It keeps the bike nice and planted, and you can really attack the corners. But without having that fuel tank and that fuel going around and the general engine inertia, you don't have that engine braking. So when you roll off, you don't have gears to bang through and use the engine braking to stop the bike and get you turning. The bike just freewheels, so that was something I really had to get used to, was the fact that this bike, when you roll off, just wants to carry on running, and all that weight just pushes the bike forward. So you really have to kind of change your riding style, change the way you approach, change the way you think. You can't ride it like you ride a normal superbike. When I first climbed on the bike, I thought, why would you want to throw expensive parks like these proper Öhlins, and there are proper Öhlins forks, big Brembo brakes on it. And that, my answer was pretty much answered when I went flat out riding down the road, had to clamp the brakes, and without that engine braking and anything, you need proper suspension and proper brakes to get all this weight stopped in time. Because like I said, there's no engine braking to help you do that job.
So there is some good points and some bad ones. The biggest bad one is that weight. So a small problem is that this bike is 280 kilograms. They say wet, which I don't know quite what that means. I presume, it's got fuel in the tank? No. Oil? Not really. Bit of radiator fluid. So I don't know quite what wet means. It doesn't really have much of a difference. But wet weight of 280 kilograms, which is a lot. It's a lot. Although for some reason you don't, I don't know, around a track maybe you'll definitely feel it. But right here, I don't know, it's pretty solid. It gives us like, not nippy, but solid feeling, like sort of confidence inspiring, which I really like. And of course you go into a corner and you want to open the throttle and you're just there. Look at it. So, sun is busy setting. We're about to cloud into darkness. Let's get back to, the stereotypes. The first one is, are these slow?
Simple answer, no, not at all. Certainly not initially.
I love how it's like, so it's sort of like automatic. It's no matter where the engine is, you've got 200 and 250 Newton meters. So you're in a corner at any speed, doing whatever, you need to do that, 250 Newton meters, boom, and it's there, and you're just suddenly going forward really quickly.
Well, what I said to myself on the bike is, there's none of this horrible South African fuel going through a fuel tank, through pipes, anything. You have this direct line from the battery to that throttle, and it's hard to explain that direct response of that throttle. It's literally so on, off, and
it's intoxicating.
It is.
It is intoxicating. You just want to keep opening that throttle more and more. Okay, is it quiet? Are they quiet?
Not as quiet as I thought. It's got this
they make
buzz
a downright
to it.
din. That's what they do. They make a racket.
It's not as quiet as I thought. It's like a sewing machine on overload.
Just to tell you, we were filming on the road not far from here, and a lady actually came out to see what we were doing. Hands, fists on the hip. They wanted to know. She heard these bikes going whizzing up and down. She wanted to know what was going on. So they're not really quiet. I mean, people are going to hear you coming. You can't sneak up. Only it doesn't idle. So you can't sit and rev it like this, like an idiot. Well, you can, but you'll hit something.
You got to be very careful because, like I said, it doesn't idle. So when you climb on, and if you just turn that throttle mistakenly,
yes, exactly.
215 Newton meters
That's one
of
thing
torque.
to be careful of is when you got a mate sitting on it, and so what happens now? Is it on?
And I parked it down, going down a hill, and there's no gear to put it in gear and keep you from rolling down the hill. So it takes some adjusting, that's for sure.
Okay, so mileage. Now it's a little bit sort of tricky because the way we ride on these, we've only got these bikes for one day, sadly. If we were really good journalists, we'd have them for longer. We'd go and do range tests, but we've only had them for one day. And we could only really ride them the way, how we ride when we're shooting, which is like morons.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit on and off. We had to switch between flat out sport mode to eco mode. So, but I think the general mileage...
A lot of flat out.
Yeah,
Look on these things as it is right now with a 21.5 kilowatt, I don't know the thing, but a 21.5, that's the size of the petrol tank on this thing, the battery, okay? We're looking at the way we were riding now, roughly 200 kilometers.
I would say.
And that's riding badly.
Yeah, that
mostly riding badly.
Yeah, that was giving it some stick.
Yes, if you kind of calm it a little bit more, an ordinary sort of breakfast ride, not sort of flat out the whole entire way, you're looking at about 250 kilometers. If you're going to ride them really sort of through town to work, really economically, maybe 300 kilometers.
Yeah, I think so, 300.
And they charge 2.5 hours, as we said, 2.5 hours gets you 300 kilometers. On eco mode. If you go to one of those special petrol stations,
20 minutes.
There's a cat going on here.
We're in the wild.
We're in the wilds. 20 minutes. The only thing is the price.
Price is what puts it off. It doesn't really entice you to go from your normal superbike to that.
The time we are shooting them now, the Ego's around 615,000 Rand, where the Eva's about 570. Those are the base models. These have a whole lot of extras, so they're quite a bit more than that. It is a lot of money, but then there's very little costs after that. I mean, tires, brake pads, chain, no motor expenses because there isn't anything there. It's just the motor is rated 1.5 million kilometers.
That's a lot of mileage. Look, you just got to hope Eskom is on. That's the big downer. But it's a nice thing. If you run out here, you pull it on the side. If someone's got literally a plug point, you can charge your bike. You don't have to try and push it to the nearest petrol station. So that helps. I love the build quality of the bike. The Italians do it so well. They've literally put carbon in places. They really finished off the motorbike beautifully, except those headlights. Can't say I'm a fan of those. Remember those old short circuit movies? They scaled them off that robot.
One other thing about the mileage is that on the Ego, I've got to keep remembering the names. We don't know what that means. On the Ego, if you want to go and do a track day, you could easily, from a full battery, you could do 20-minute track sessions. Then you pull into the pits, and let's just say you've got 40 minutes ABC group. During that 40 minutes, you can plug it into a fast charger, and you'll easily make the next 20 minutes. So you can do a full day at a track day, riding every single 20-minute session, and it'll be perfect.
That's the beauty.
I can't wait to actually ride on a track.
I'm really excited because, I mean, it is that MotoE kind of replica bike. So I'm keen to see. Out on the long sweeping roads going flat out, it's a big heavy bike. That weight kind of stuck it to the ground. It's when you roll off and you're wanting that engine braking that's not there, you kind of scrap.
280 kilograms is not.
Yeah, and you feel it
280 kilograms wet. I don't know where the wet comes in, but
exactly.
With a full petrol tank. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Energica is here in South Africa. MotoGP racing machines. We are very excited. The electronic revolution has officially started here. Have a look. You've got a website here. I'm not going to mention it to you. It's over here right now. Go there. Otherwise, look up Energica South Africa for the local importer, and they'll explain to you how to go about ordering one. But excellent. Thank you very much.
Love it.
Geniet.
That's interesting, isn't it? listen, apart from the fact that I'm really upset that I've missed out on riding those electric bikes, I have to say that's my prejudices about electric motorcycles pretty much exploded. I mean, performance-wise, wow, they look quick. They sound a bit weird, but they do look really quick, and they proved it, didn't they? Old Dumpy Don managed to blow off Racy Rob, and he was on an S1000RR, so it's hardly a slow motorbike. That was seriously impressive. The range thing, I'm always a bit dubious, but then I am a cynic at heart, so I'll reserve my judgment, but based on what they were doing a full day's riding, you'd have to say it's right there, 200 k's plus when you're really, really on it, and 250 to 300 k's when you're less so. That's pretty workable. Price? Yeah, okay, it falls down there at the moment. To get the equivalent sort of superbike performance, you're really, really paying for it now. R500,000 plus 600,000 rand, that's a lot. But if you're the sort of lucky person who has got that type of money and would occasionally buy yourself a really fancy special edition Ducati or something like that, then I've got to say the Energicas are a genuine alternative to have something truly special and unique in your garage. But some of the doubts still remain. Okay, they do mention that you can have a fast charger, which by the way we reckon is about 10,000 rand for the fast charger. So as Don says, that would make the bike viable at a track day. But in normal riding conditions, yes, the range isn't too bad, but it's not as easy to fill up, is it? So if you're out on your superbike, 200, 250 k's in, you pull into a petrol station, what is that? That's 2 minutes maximum when you need to find somewhere to plug your bike in, and it ain't 2 minutes no matter what they say. You're looking at least an hour or 40 minutes to get a top-up charge. So it's getting better, but that's still a bit of a drawback. But overall, Energica's very, very impressive indeed. If you're lucky enough to be able to buy one, go ahead and do it. I mean, wow, talk about leading the pack when it comes to new technology. Okay, we will be back after this short break with another leader of the pack, one of the best places in Gauteng, if not the country, that you can go for your biking accessories.